Welcome to Dev Talks, an engaging session as part of the 10 Days of Code organized by GNU Linux Users Group in IT Durgapur. We are thrilled to have you join us today for an inspiring event dedicated to gaining valuable insights from industry experts and enhancing your understanding of cut edge technologies. I am Akriti Goyal, your host for this session, representing GNU Linux Users Group, a vibrant community that fosters creativity and collaboration in the world of open source. It is my absolute honor to introduce a speaker for today, Mr. Avinal Kumar. He is a software engineer at Red Hat, specializing in hybrid cloud engineering and an expert in building scalable and innovative solutions. Avinal has been a mentor in prestigious programs like Google Summer of Code under FOSSology and Google Season of Docs, contributing immensely to the open source ecosystem. Today, he will be sharing his knowledge and insights on Kubernetes, operating systems, and Red Hat Linux, topics at the core of modern cloud computing and open source innovation. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Avinal Kumar. We are really glad to have you with us today, Avinal. To kick things off, could you share with us your journey into the field of hybrid cloud engineering and open source technologies?
Yeah, Kriti, I'm glad to be here joining you all. And I think you already kicked off with some of my previous milestones, but yeah, let me start it again. So, my first open source journey started with Google Season of Docs in a VLC media player. So, if you can see the user docs for Android, I wrote them, and after that, next year, I got into Google Summer of Code with FOSSology. There, I worked on changing their build systems, and after that, I also mentored in GulfScript Summer of Code and other small open source program. And finally, I got an intern at Red Hat, and now I work at Red Hat. So I maintain a couple of projects in under Tecton organization and FOSSology. And my current work include working with containers, Docker, Kubernetes, OpenShift, CI/CD systems, Golang, and a little bit of shell scripting. And also, there's a lot of other open source project that we contribute to because Red Hat is a open source centered company. So yeah, that is basically my tech journey so far. And I'm also currently looking towards contributing to uh, the C libraries project like glibc and other sister projects. Yep, that is it.
We really appreciate you sharing that. Your experiences offer valuable insights, especially for those looking to get involved in open source. So, could you share your journey with us from starting in the tech industry to becoming a software engineer at Red Hat?
Let's see. So I think it started when I was in college. So before college, I didn't had any. I had exposure, but not much exposure to any kind of programming or a proper development. I learned it in my first and second year, and through my college seniors, I got to know about more things like open source in general. And as you are a Glug community, we also have a Glug community in my college. And that is where my open source journey started. And slowly but gradually, I think I got into different open source programs, and I started contributing to open source projects, sometimes big, sometimes small. But yeah, it was gradual. It was not instant at all. And then COVID hit, as you all know. So during COVID, I think I did a lot of work around learning how to program. One of the courses that I did was um, Tetris. So it is a course on Coursera. I think everyone who is a computer science engineer or budding computer science engineer, they should do this course. It is two-part, but it will teach you basics of computer programming as well as how computers work. So it's all in one package. That was one of the best course I had. And after that, as I said earlier, I got into Google Smurf Code and Google Season of Dogs. So I want to highlight that connection is very important. Either you are in college or you are doing a job or you want to take a job, the connection, communication, it is very, very important. Once you start connecting with people who are not just around you, like just in college or class, you will get more insight. Try to reach out to people, talk with them. As college students, you can also join conferences. Most of the time, they are free for college students, so you will get additional insights, and that is also what I did. I In COVID times I used to join online conferences, and I got more ideas from them and more things to learn. And then I worked on them, and after that, I got an internship at Red Hat, and now the rest of my journey is still continuing with Red Hat for now.
Hearing that was super motivating, sir, especially for people like us who just started out. Kubernetes is becoming essential in modern cloud infrastructure. How would you recommend beginners approach learning Kubernetes effectively?
So, see, learning Kubernetes, it can be easy, it can be daunting. I'll be very honest that before joining Red Hat, I only heard of the word and did not know what it means or how it works or anything about it. So, I would say start easy. Start with learning what are containers. Start with learning what is Podman, Docker, how you can use containers for your development environment, how you can use containers to uh, run a project or deploy a project. After that, once you are confident with working with containers, then you can go into learning Kubernetes. For that part, we actually have a lot of resources. You can go through official documentation. There are also very good YouTube channels. I personally prefer Tech World with Nena, if I remember correctly. Uh, she does all these containers and Kubernetes courses, and they are really, really good. You can go see that. And hands-on approach is very important. So let's say if you want to learn how Kubernetes work, then you go learn about its architecture. If you want to learn how to use it, then I would say create a project and try to deploy it on Kubernetes just on your local machine. You can use things like Minikube or Kind or any other local setup. There are a lot of setups in you can find on internet. So you can also use guided tutorials from Killer Coda. Previously, it used to be Catacoda, but now it doesn't exist. So you can use Killer Coda. And I won't recommend going for certifications, but if you are interested, you can go for Kubernetes certifications. They are really good, especially if you want to try your career in SRE and DevOps engineer. So you can have Kubernetes certifications. Um, but just don't jump right into Kubernetes. Learn about basics first, and then it's easy if you do it gradually.
That's a helpful advice for anyone trying to dive into Kubernetes. So, how do you see Kubernetes evolving, especially with the rise of hybrid cloud solutions and edge computing?
At first, I want to explain what is meant by hybrid cloud. Um, all the cloud providers you see, like AWS, GCP, or IBM Compute or Oracle Compute, they are part of fully cloud infrastructure. And then there are, let's say, there are companies like banking institutions or government institution or any kind of, let's say, military institution who don't want to use those cloud infrastructure because it's a data risk, it can be a privacy risk. So what they do is they create something on their own server. They set up their own hardware, they set up their own software and use that. Uh, in hybrid cloud, basically what we are trying to do is you can simultaneously use different on cloud as well as on premises services for different purpose, so that you don't have to rely on just one service. um, Kubernetes is just a part of the equation. There's a lot other things going. Kubernetes is just like you are trying to orchestrate whatever services you are deploying on your servers. So Kubernetes, I think now it's around a decade old, if I remember correctly. So, and you can see it has found a lot of uses in a lot of different industries. At Red Hat, we use it very much, and we have a whole platform dedicated to it. Like we have our own OpenShift distribution. Um, so about the future of Kubernetes, it's hard to say, honestly, because it depends on what kind of workload, what kind of project, what kind of company you are trying to build. Let's say recently Gitpod announced that they are moving away from Kubernetes. That is also one of the things that we need to consider, that Kubernetes is not everything. You can use it where it is needed, but you cannot push Kubernetes in every single thing. So if you just need a website to work, probably you don't need Kubernetes. But yeah, the future with further enhancement coming in AI ML, I wouldn't say enhancement, it's more like explosion. So yep, companies are trying to use Kubernetes to scale AI models and other things. Those researches, those experiments are going on, and yeah, it keeps increasing, and day by day you get new features. Like some of these features are still being worked on, like multi-tenancy, multi-cluster, uh, and for edge computing also you are getting new distributions like K0s, K3s, ranchers. But it is also good to see the alternatives. Like we have a lot of good Kubernetes alternative like Docker Swarm. It does not exist much, but it was there. Then we have Nomad or ECS or even Mesos. So some companies, some people, they are trying to use it according to their workload. But yeah, the future is, I would say, it's ever increasing. It will increase more in the future. If you are trying to learn it, maybe you are learning a good skill.
So I found it really interesting. Can you tell us more about that, or can you give a more brief on it?
So the thing about when you go in software industry, let's say I am creating a website like Netflix. Okay, so initially, what you will assume that, okay, I need to provide videos to the user on demand. Netflix is what we call an on-demand video service, streaming service. So there's not just one part of it. So you have a front end where you will provide it. Then you have a back end which takes care of all kind of transcoding and compression. So because let's say if you are directly trying to stream a video, you will have a lot of problems because let's say 1 or 2 hour of video file in full HD or even in 4K, it can be very large, like 10 gigabytes or 20 gigabytes. So if you are transporting that many data from one place to another, it would be very expensive for your company as well as the start of whatever you are doing. So now you need efficient scaling. For scaling, Kubernetes is not the ultimate choice, but a good choice. Yes. But you also need to take care of other things. You may need GPU support. Maybe Kubernetes does not provide that great GPU support. So you will look for other solutions. So it depends on a part of your workflow you can use Kubernetes for, but other parts that may be good using other things. It's as simple as that. Like if you want to start with development, probably Linux or Mac is a better choice because you get instant access to development tools. It's easier to install, easier to set up. Sometimes someone will provide you just a single file that you can run on your computer and your whole development environment is set up. On Windows, maybe it is not that easy. But let's say if you want to create a native Windows app, you don't have any other choice, better choice than using Windows itself. So that is how future of Kubernetes is. We are seeing a lot of really interesting solution in this space, and I hope some of these solutions get as big as Kubernetes.
Okay, sir. So, how does hybrid cloud engineering shape the future of enterprise technology? Are there any challenges unique to hybrid cloud solutions?
Yeah, the challenge is, as I discussed earlier, is not every time you want to use a cloud provider. Why
Yeah.
not? There are a lot of issues. So let's say in India, I want to use AWS. It's just an example. Don't take it seriously. Uh, so, in order to use it, we need to follow a lot of compliance. That means the cloud providers should provide us with these satisfaction ratings or surveys or let's say guarantee that our data won't be breached or my data is not leaving my country. Okay, it is stored somewhere inside my country. Other than that, security practices. So I want to make sure that my server is not tampered with or is foolproof from hackers and other entities. And let's say for bank, so for banking transactions are very important. You do not want anyone else to have access to your bank data, right? So, but you still want some services that should be on the cloud. How do you do it? So there is hybrid cloud. Like you can have some of your workload on cloud services and other workloads on your in-premises services, like on your own server. And you can have some kind of automation or some kind of software to link between these two. So the flexibility is you can let's say if you have a control of your own hardware, on demand you can increase it, on demand you can control it however you want, you can keep it wherever you want. With cloud services you have flexibility that you don't have to manage it, but you don't have other flexibility. Okay, and also it may cost you more money than maintaining your own server and vice versa. So there are issues around, let's say, data consistency, latency, or security in a hybrid environment. So for enterprise, it's any kind of big enterprise, it's really important to know that what kind of data I'm going to keep on my server and what kind of workload I'm going to run on a cloud service. And especially a cloud service which is not owned by us. Let's say, for example, Microsoft, they have their own cloud service, Azure. So they probably want to their own cloud, use their own cloud service, but sometimes, maybe sometime they may need AWS to use something or GCS. So these are all the things around hybrid cloud technologies, and um, we discussed Kubernetes and OpenShift. So those solutions they try to patch the gap between cloud and on premises. Okay. They try to be a bond between them. So that is how cloud hybrid cloud technology is important for enterprise. Yeah, that is basically it about it.
I appreciate how you highlighted the challenges, but it's easy to overlook those when thinking about the benefits.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, what are some of the standout features of the Red Hat Linux that make it suitable for enterprise use?
Let's see. If you have to go back when Red Hat Linux was not a thing, Linux was still there and probably in its infancy. Um, Companies were trying to look for something that is reliable but is not a closed garden. So the initial, I think, version of Red Hat Linux, the idea was what about because this Linux is free. You can download any Linux distro, install on your computer, use it without paying to anyone. Sometimes you can donate as well, but that depends person to person. In general, everyone is like, okay, I can download it for free, I can use it for free for however I want and whenever I want. Okay, but when you again come for companies, so as a company, why I would want to use Linux? Okay, the benefits are good. Benefits is like we it's a reliable system. It gives us more performant and more efficiency, less hardware rather than having a Windows server. Okay, but what is the issue is as a company I want to make sure that if I'm running something it is always running. Okay, it there is no disruption of services to my clients. Okay, so that time when Red Hat Linux was not a thing, companies were trying to just use it or maintain their own versions. The idea behind Red Hat Linux was okay, the software is free, but how about I provide you support for it? Support like maybe we can provide driver support because if you are using a different hardware, you may not have the drivers, or if you have drivers, it may not be maintained. How about I provide you setup support? Like you can use the setup by our consultant, and it will make your work easier. And a lot of integration. Initially, Red Hat Linux was only one thing, but now it has a whole ecosystem designed around it. So let's say you will have different other product from Red Hat that can natively be run on Red Hat Linux. Okay, so, and also security wise, it's more hardened, and there are a lot of proactive vulnerability management that are taken care of that you won't find in a normal Linux distro. So, as a company, if I want to use it, it gives me all those things that we were discussing earlier for hybrid cloud. I want privacy, so you take Red Hat Linux, you deploy it in your server, no issues. You want security, it's hardened and it has security measures inbuilt, no issues again. And then it also has a good console to take care of things. You also have support from Red Hat if you have purchased it. So as a company, what I'm doing is I am taking away all of my stress of maintaining a operating system for my servers and giving it to some other company. That's what makes Red Hat Linux a different choice for enterprise. Okay.
Thanks for explaining that, sir. It really helps us understand what sets it apart.
Mhm.
So, what other DevOps skills other than Kubernetes would you say are crucial for beginners to learn?
So let's get into the basics first. Kubernetes and CI/CD, they are not synonymous. They are not also different, but they are not synonymous. CI/CD you can achieve without Kubernetes as well. Like people have used to for decades. But you can make use of Kubernetes to have a scalable CI/CD, okay, or a CI/CD framework like Tecton. So if let's say if you want to start with CI/CD, first you have to learn what is CI/CD. CI stands for continuous integration. CD stands for continuous deployment. What happens is, let's say I created a project, and there are five more people working on that project. So once I push my code to GitHub or any other Git hosting service, other people are also pushing. They are working on different feature. I'm working on different feature. Now, what CI will do, CI part, it will build every. Let's say I created a pull request. It will build my application. It will test it. It will make sure that my application is doing what it is supposed to do. And then once the artifact means whatever you required for application to host. It can be a binary file, it can be the UI files or database files. You take all of them and put into CD. Now, what CD does is, because I added a new feature or I fixed something, I need the system to take care of, like, okay, I deployed a new thing. So let's say if you have a bug in your website, what you do is you push something, you fix that bug and you push it to your hosting service. CD will take care of that. If you have a binary file and you need to replace it with another binary file, CD will take care of that. So we have a lot of tools. We have the granddaddy of CI/CD, Jenkins. Now it is still being used a lot, although it is very old, but still as good as new, I would say. Then you have some other CI/CD like GitHub Actions, Circle CI, Travis CI, GitLab CI/CD, and then you have cloud native based CI/CD solutions like Tecton. Okay, so if you want to start with CI/CD, learn. I would say easiest part is to understand what is CI/CD and start using it in your workflows. So far, I have found GitHub Actions is the most easiest one to start with. Okay, and you have a lot of documentation as well. So just create a project, put it on GitHub, and try to set up a GitHub action for it. That should give you a fine taste of what CI/CD looks like. And then after that, you can also learn into automations. So we have tools like Ansible, which can automate your whole workflow. Then, if you go even further, you can have monitoring like how your system is performing and other things. Here, you can use Prometheus, Grafana. These all are Kubernetes based tools. And then, even further, you can understand about networking, like we have service meshes and ISTO, container networking, how it works. So, these all are part of CI/CD and DevOps.
So this year we have a kind of same project in the Java domain, like
Mhm.
explaining CI/CD part.
Okay, nice. That is good. So you can start with all these things. I would say just go right away and go dive in GitHub Actions. It's the easiest way to start.
Yes, sir. So that's a great way to look at it. Let's move forward. So, how do you see Red Hat Linux evolving in the coming years with trends like hybrid cloud and containerization?
So for hybrid cloud and containerization, I would say it is still being used. And to be honest, let's generalize it for Linux. Okay, Red Hat Linux is nothing very different from Linux, except it has some enterprise grade things in between inbuilt. So yeah, for Linux, yeah, it is improving. We are seeing not very great leaps, but we are seeing improvements um, in our Linux systems. So currently, with the explosion of AI/ML, you can see even more Linux system coming in, and people are trying to develop new, more efficient system to make use of every bit of hardware you have. Uh, so yeah, and better part is we are also getting some momentum in desktop uses of Linux. That is a great part. If all of you are not using it, maybe you should. It's just simply better for students and basically everyone. You can use a, if you have an old computer, maybe you can install Linux, a easier one, and maybe give it to some older person in your house to use it. That will probably work. It may not, but it may work. But you have to try. You won't know without trying it. So the best part about Linux is you can probably compile it to run on almost every hardware. You can run it on decent hardware. You can run it on old hardware, as well as embedded systems and edge computing device. All of the Android phones, they have a Linux kernel inside. So you are using Linux right now, maybe. So yeah, that is how it grows, and you can also create a specialized hardware around to run Linux if you have a different kind of workload. If I remember correctly, recently the Mars rover that got sent, it probably had some Linux bit in it. So that is also great achievement. So yeah, it keeps growing, but on desktop, we still need a lot of people to adopt Linux. Um, and I'm not saying Windows is bad; it's just Linux is better. So yeah, you can do that.
Every Linux user says the same thing.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I can't wait to see how Red Hat evolves with everything you mentioned. So, as Go has emerged as a popular language in cloud native and system programming due to its simplicity, performance, and scalability, could you share how beginners can start learning Go and why it stands out in these domains?
Okay, so the best part about Golang is it's simple to learn. There are not a lot of, I would say, keyword or syntax around it. So it's really easy to learn. I won't compare it with Python or say English language, but Go is really simple. So if you want to learn Go, and that is one of the reason why Go found it ways into API development, and most of the cloud native workspace, it's exclusively in Go. Very recently, we started seeing some different programming language taking over some cloud native, but most of it you will find in Go. Docker written in Go, Kubernetes written in Go, Tecton written in Go, and a lot more example, whatever you can find. So for beginners, the official guide is very good. Okay. You can also learn from Golang Bot. It's a website. I use it very much, and the person there, he explain it in a very bitwise language, and it's very easy to learn. And other than that, you can also do exercises on exorcism. They are also really good. uh, I do not prefer learning by seeing videos, but if you want, then we have a lot of great videos on YouTube and Udemy that you can refer to for learning Go. uh, and the last part, it's not only about Go, but if you want to learn any other programming language or any other framework, the best way is to pick a project and create it. Just simply, let's say I will create a project that I want to make a URL shortener. Whatever I URL give it to it, it will just shorten it. Let's pick another project. Okay, I just want to create a project that will um, let's say find out hidden meaning in my name with some crazy algorithms. Okay, good project. uh, when I was in college, I created a project which transforms your photo into a golden ratio image. Again, just a simple project, not much lines of change, but you can do it and you will learn the basics of language. So just pick a random idea and try to create a project out of it, and try to see how other people are creating, and that is how you can learn any language, not just Go. But for learning Go, I would say you can also refer to the official Go language programming book. That is also really good. Yep, that is it.
So that was quite insightful, and I am definitely sure we all have learned how we can start on learning Go language.
Mhm.
So, open source has revolutionized the way technology evolves through collaboration and transparency. How do you view its importance in driving innovation and shaping the future of technology?
Okay, open source is quite old, I would say. And personally, for me, I haven't worked under any closed source organization so far. Everything, all of my internship and job, it all has been in open source world. So you have to see why open source. And open source is not without its flaws. Obviously, there are some flaws in it. But you have to see how open source work at the code level. So let's say, as a company, I created something. Okay, and first let's take out the obvious belief that open source is better than closed source or something. It doesn't work. It's not all that white and black. It's more like it's a gray area. So let's say if I want to make a different algorithm for trading, you may not want to do it open source, because then others will be using it, and you won't get your profit, or you may get your profit shared. Or if I want to, let's say, a penetration system, you don't want to do it open source. So, or if you want to develop a military software, open source is not at all an option. So, where is open source an option is where you want to create something that can benefit a lot of people without hurting all these points like privacy or confidentiality or other things. So, what happens in open source is I created a project. I won't say donated to community, but I made it open so that anyone can take my project, make their own modification, and share it to others. So the basic idea behind open source is okay, I am creating something, I am sharing it with other people. Other people are creating something that I am using. If you see around you, you are using a lot of open source project without even knowing or without even paying a single rupee for it. Let's say the most popular media player, VLC, it's open source. Uh, if you go to their website, you won't even find advertisements. Okay, and how it runs, how it is still existing, just on donations. It doesn't have any offering. It's not a company. Okay, so it doesn't earn money, but people donate to it, and that is how developers are still developing. But it's open source. And even more than that, if you see the media codecs, that the part that, like right now we are doing video conferencing, right? So what happening is video is taken in from my camera, it's getting some mix, some magic around it, okay, it getting compressed and something, and getting sent to your screen, and similarly vice versa for you. How is this happening? With behind that, there is something called codecs. Okay, these codecs, they see your video feed and convert into something that can be streamed. And you will find that VLC is not just a media player; it actually develops media codecs as well. So a lot of video streaming services, a lot of video playing apps, they use these codecs, and they all are open source. One very popular open source project that does this video codecs is, I think, FFmpeg. It's all open source again. Then you are using commands like curl or top, vim, and VS Code. Even VS Code is open source as well. So you see, what happens is sometimes people point out that okay, what I am getting from open source if I'm open sourcing my project, what companies are getting from it. As a company, you get not free contributions, but yeah, free contributions from other people who are also using your project. You also get more security because in open source, if you want to do something on a project, you may have to go through multiple eyes before it gets merged. Even if something rogue gets merged, other people will notice it, and then you can revert it. You can do it like it's it's simply more secure than being a closed source. Okay, so what is there but we do have our issues, like sometimes in open source someone created their project and big companies are using it, they're not paying him for it, they're not provide maintenance for it or any kind of support. That is bad and it's happening a lot. So you will also see some companies they are reverting their product licenses from open source to closed source or source available. To give you a context, what is source available? Source available is basically like I have a project, I have a code, and you can see the code, but you cannot copy it, you cannot modify it. You can just see the code. That's it. Okay. Um, and it also has its own benefit in some way. Maybe not as much as open source, but yeah, some benefits. So there are challenges, but there are good things as well for open source. As a college student, I would recommend that you have to start contributing to open source. Why? Because if you want to learn something, you have to put time in it, and open source projects are a great way to learning something. You don't have a commitment there. You don't have to pay money to them to learn something. You just have to give your time and effort, and sometimes the community will also teach you a lot of things. So, as a college student, definitely start in open source. Does not need to be Gold Summer of Code. Any project is good as long as it is a good project and they are working on something that you also are interested in. So, yeah, that is basically about open source.
We understood, sir. Open source has a lot more to offer than we know.
Yeah, definitely. You will only know once you start using it. The most simplest contribution I would say is in your daily world. If you have something, let's say if you want to use some software, also search for open source alternative. That is a great way of start contributing to open source ecosystem.
Yes, sir. So we have some questions from the audience. I would like to mention some, and it would be very nice of you to answer them.
Sure.
So, what are the key benefits and challenges of using Elm for functional programming in front end development?
Let's see. So Elm, yeah, Elm is a very good programming language, I would say. Probably a programming language with the best compiler in the world. But it has not been very active development. Okay, the author made it, but he has not been developing it much. But you can still use it. You will just be getting few more bugs than before. But the good part about Elm is if you create something in it, it simply works. There is very less chance of getting something error until it's a logical error. From programming language side, it simply works. So the challenges is just like it's slightly outdated for now, and people are flocking more towards other expressive front end systems like let's say React or I do not know a lot about front end, so I won't be able to name a lot. But yeah, the other solutions they are being maintained, they are in active development, and they are also modern. So that's a benefit towards using other front end systems than Elm. But if you want something reliable and if you don't have a lot of things to do. If you, let's say, if you just want to create your own web application, Elm is still a good choice.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
So, kernel development can be daunting for beginners. What would be your advice for someone looking to contribute to the Linux kernel?
Let's see. I am also in the same boat, and yeah, it is daunting because kernel is not a easy thing. But as a college student, I would advise you to think about operating systems, compilers, um, get an idea of what is kernel, how kernel works, what can be the different part of kernels. So, like in Linux kernel, you have different subsystems. Each subsystems it it does a particular purpose. It has a particular purpose. So you need to know what is that purpose before you can even try to contribute to it. And the easiest way I found is through LFX mentorship. Sometimes it's paid, sometimes it is not, but you don't really have to care about it for now. You can just go to LFX and try for a mentorship in Linux. So they will also teach you how to submit bug, how to submit patches, how to get review, how to you know send repatches or something like that. Um, Other than that, you can start learning about kernel from books. I haven't found a lot of good videos on kernel on YouTube. If you find some, please share me too. So um, yeah, for beginners, as college students, I would definitely recommend that at least learn the basics. So the C you know and the C used there is not same. So you may find it very daunting to even look at the code. So make sure that you are confident in C language first, and then you can go for LFX mentorship. And also the course I mentioned, 9 to Tetris. It is a great way of learning about all these things while also maintaining a programming standard. So let me give you an example. Like what you can do is you can do the whole course in C language. It would be tough. It would be really, really tough. But you will get an idea about what kind of work you may have to do when submitting patches to kernel. Yeah, that is basically how you can start as a beginner.
That was quite insightful for a person who are looking forward to contribute in a Linux kernel. So we are not going to bother you anymore. This is the last and the least question for the session in the evening. Looking ahead, what advice would you give to aspiring developers and open source enthusiasts to stay ahead in the ever evolving tech industry?
Um, so I would like to touch some point around layoffs and other things. Okay, so and yeah, it is hard for people to get jobs. It is hard to uh, stay in the company if there has been layoffs, and especially for freshers, they are not getting any jobs. But my advice to you would be if you are good enough, you will find a job maybe sooner, maybe later. You don't have to worry about it much, but only if you are good enough. How can you be good? A lot of people would suggest that the things that you're learning at college may have little value. I have a different opinion to that. No, it doesn't have little value. It's more like how you are learning it. Okay, so courses like operating system, networking, databases, graphics, and computer architecture, microprocessors, they are very important. Why important? Because uh, once you learn this, you will learn how computer works. Once you learn how computer works, it would be easier for you to design something that goes along the computer, not goes against it. Okay, so I won't say that just be busy with that and don't do anything else. No, learn your subject, at least understand it. I'm not asking you to get good marks in it. Understanding is not same as scoring marks. So I want you to understand all these subjects that you are being taught in college, and then try to use it in your projects. Okay, try to find a project that uses them, like working on operating system. You can find many small operating systems that are being developed for embedded and other things, and you can try to contribute there. And that way, you will enhance your knowledge in operating system. Let's say if you are learning Golang or distributed system, Kubernetes is a great example of distributed system. Okay, so you can go and contribute to Kubernetes. Another project you can make on Kubernetes. So my advice would be, don't skip things. Okay, um, there are a lot of people or lot of opinions. I have a different opinion than maybe a lot of people, but uh, I have seen my opinion works. Okay, so maybe don't skip on things. Try to learn your things. Try to master things. Not like okay, I know five languages, but I cannot write code in any one of them. Not a good approach. Maybe you just need one language or two language at most. Like I said, I do not know anything about front end. Um, I I tried sometimes, but I didn't find it interesting enough, so I gave up. But I know a lot about other things, maybe system programming, backend engineering. So uh, my advice to all of you would be same. If you're learning something, make sure that you master it. Make sure that if you have got a question from it, you can answer it as like butter. Okay, so learn new things, contribute to open source if you like to do so. Learn a language, learn at least two or three good languages. Okay, for languages, I would say learn at least one backend, one front end, and something about database. Okay, this would be very helpful when you are going into industry. One of the important skill that most people overlook is Git skills. Okay, most of the industry they still use Git. Wherever you go, you will probably be using some kind of version control. So learn about Git. It's not hard to use for simple tasks, and most of 90% of the time you will be using simple commands in Git. So learn about it. It's easy. Other than that, keep trying your horizon, keep expanding your horizon by connecting to people, participating into hackathons or maybe competitive programming. I'm not very good in competitive programming, but if you like to do so, please do. Okay. Other than that, you can also go to conferences. You can also have a hobby project. So if you don't know about Videoland, it was a hobby project that was developed in college itself when those people were in college. So you can also create something that gets that achieves a god level in may say a decade. You may not find it interesting enough now, but yeah, there is always a chance that you can do something big. So yeah, my instructions are very vague, I would say. But in short, learn your things. Don't take shortcuts. Learn your things and learn it really good. Then probably you won't find much problems.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable time, expertise, and insights with us. Your deep dive into Kubernetes operating systems and Red Hat Linux has been incredibly enlightening and inspiring for all of us. To everyone here, let's take these lessons and insights as motivation to explore, innovate, and contribute to the open source community. On behalf of GNU Linux Users Group, I would like to thank all of you for your participation in today's session of Dev Talks as part of the 10 Days of Code. Let's continue the spirit of learning and collaboration throughout the program. Until next time, keep coding and keep innovating. May the source be with you.
Thank you for having me. I feel glad that I was able to answer your queries, and I hope I can meet sometime again.
For sure, sir. Looking forward to do that.
Sure.